Don't forget to like and subscribe to Jolie Knots Crochet. Share with your friends. Hit that little notification bell so you can get notified when new patterns release. All our videos are available in left and right-handed tutorials.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Jolie Knots Crochet. I'm Crystal and today we are going to make this Slanted Granny V-neck summer top. Now for the last couple of weeks I did come out with a few different patterns. The Slanted Granny kids crop top and also the sweater. If you have not seen those, I'll go ahead and link them in the description box below. There will also be a written pattern for the Slanted Granny V-neck summer top, and I will link that in this description box below as well. Now this top is sized all the way from size small to 5X, and it is really easy to customize the size of this and the fit that you like. Now the way that we are going to be working this top is going to be in long rectangular panels. So the bottom of, well, the side, I guess you'd say, of one side is going to be the bottom of your top, and then it's going to go over your shoulder, so it'll be long enough to go over your shoulder, and then sit at the back. And when we get to the sizing as far as your length, you'll be able to choose your sizing with the adjustments that I show you on the screen. Now, as far as the size goes, that's going to be what we're going to repeat in the width of the panel in order to create our bust. So one panel will be approximately 1/4 size of your bust, so that 2 is half for the front, and then the other 2 is half for the back. Now we're just doing 2 rectangles for this, folding them in half, seaming up the front and the back, leaving the top open for a V-neck. Now because it's a V-neck, it will curve or slant this way, and we will also be seaming up the sides, and this will actually become a sleeve going down your arm. All right, now the reason I do call this a slanted granny is because of the way that these stitches are done. We are doing granny stitches, so groups in multiples of 3, but how they are sitting are slanted. So instead of sitting in between your granny groups, they're sitting on top. So they're just slightly slanting. So what you will see is that one side will be, from the middle, will be slanting upwards, and then on the back side from the middle it will be slanting downwards. And that's really the only way to know the front and the back. It's just got a little bit of a different sit in the back than in the front. I mean, of course you can do it whichever way you like. So once we make our 2 panels, we're going to seam up the sides and leave an armhole. We'll seam up the middle to create our neckline. And then the last step that we're going to do is create a band on the bottom. Now our band is going to help hold our piece in, so that it's more of a relaxed, loose fit and not a hanging fit. This should fit more snugly around your waist so that it brings it in a little bit. Okay, so the yarn that I used for this project, I purchased from Ice Yarns. This yarn is called a Natural Garden. It is a 40% bamboo, 35% linen, and 25% cotton, and it is a 2-weight yarn. Now, I did say that you can customize this. I would not go any lower than a 2-weight yarn, or your top will have way too much stretch. It'll become way too long. It'll become way too saggy and oversized. So you definitely want to use a 2-weight yarn or thicker in order to meet gauge. So your gauge is going to be very important for this pattern. Otherwise you are going to stretch way too much, all right? So the gauge that we are going to be using for this in the pattern is going to be 15 stitches by 7 double crochet rows. So when I teach you how to create this pattern, I'm not going to make a full top. I'm going to make 2 small and then show you exactly how to put everything together. and you can test your gauge with a small swatch, and rather than going up a hook size any larger than the 4.5 size hook that we are going to be using today, I would recommend that you choose a thicker yarn if your swatch is too small. All right, so the amount of yarn that you're going to need, I will go ahead and leave scrolling up on the screen for you to be able to get the proper amount that you're going to need for your size. We're also going to be using a 4.5 millimeter hook for this project. You will need some scissors, of course, and a tapestry needle to weave in your ends. Go ahead and grab your materials and we will get started. All right, so to get started on this, we are just going to take our hook and get a slip knot on there. The first thing that we're going to do is choose our starting chain. Now the size that I made is 46 inches long. Now the 46, like I said, is going from one side, like from the front over your shoulder to the back. So I'm gonna leave a series of chains scrolling up on the screen, and you can decide how long you would like your top. Of course, it's gonna be different if you're taller or you're shorter, or your torso is taller or shorter than the average, but you can choose what your starting length is going to be. Now remember, I did say to be careful when doing your gauge, because if you do have to go up a hook size, this is going to cause your length to be much longer than it should be, because there's going to be way too much stretch, okay? So your starting chain is going to be in multiples of 3 plus 2. Now I am just going to be making a small swatch here, or a small sweater, so mine's really going to be about 6 inches long, not very long at all. So go ahead and do the chains that you would like for the length of your sweater, or you can work the swatch along with me. If you are just working a swatch, you are going to chain 17 in order to get started on just the small swatch to see what your gauging is like. So go ahead and work your chains out, and I will meet you back for the first row. Okay, so getting started on your first row, row 1 is going to be just single crochet row. So we're going to single crochet into the second chain from your hook and into every chain going all the way down. Row 1 is just single crocheting all the way down. Now the reason we're not doing a foundation single crochet is because this is your neckline. We want our neckline to be more stable and not to have a lot of stretch to it, so it does not stretch out. If we do a foundation single crochet, it will be a lot more elastic and a lot more stretched out from the size that we're looking for. Go ahead and finish out your single crochets, and I will meet you back for row 2. Our repeat rows will be rows 2 through 5. It is a 4-row repeat. I will teach you how to do the first rows and then tell you exactly how many repeats to do of those rows for the size that you are working. Okay, here I have, I've completed my first row of single crochets. Now remember, I told you I'm going to be doing a short, small top. Right in the middle of your single crochet row is going to be where your shoulder sits. So if you fold that over, this is the length that you're looking for in the front and the length that you're looking for in the back. So the length that you chose in the beginning, this will actually be double the size that you chose because it's going to be sitting over your shoulder, okay? Now getting started on row 2, we're going to chain 2. It does not count as a stitch. Every row is going to start with a chain 2. The first thing that we're going to do is put 3 double crochets right into that first stitch. 1, 2, 3. Now here's your repeat. Skip 2 stitches, 3 double crochets into the next. So in every third stitch, you'll have 3 double crochets. Skip 2 stitches, 3 double crochets into the next. You will repeat that all the way down to the end of your row until you have 3 stitches left, and I will meet you back here to show you how to get started on row 3. All right, here I am at the end of the row. There are 3 stitches left. I'm going to skip 2 stitches and I'm going to place one double crochet into the last stitch, just like that. Now getting started on row 3, we're going to chain 2 and turn our work. We're going to place 2 double crochets into the first stitch. And now we're going to begin our repeat. We're going to skip 2 stitches, 3 double crochets into the next. On this row, you will notice all of your double crochets should be landing into the last double crochet of your 3 double crochet group from the row before. Skip 2 stitches, 3 double crochets into the next until we get to the end of the row. Our last stitch will have 2 double crochets. So I'm going to finish this out and I'll meet you back at the end to show you how to close out the row and get started on row 4. Okay, here I am at the end of the row. I have 3 stitches left, so we're going to skip 2 stitches, but in our last stitch, we're only placing 2 double crochets. And that's going to finish out our row 3, which is the second row of our repeat. Getting started on row 4, we're going to chain 2. Remember, that does not count as a stitch. We're going to turn our work and we're going to start with 1 double crochet into the first stitch. Now rows 4 and 5 are essentially a repeat of each other. I will show them both to you, but the repeat is the exact same. So it's 1 double crochet into the first stitch, skip 1 stitch, and then 3 double crochets into the next. Now you'll also notice on this row that when you place your 3 double crochets, because we've flipped our work, instead of our 3 double crochets being in the last stitch, they're in the first stitch. So they follow each other. It's in the first stitch in the first row, and then the first stitch in the next row, the next one. So you should be able to follow the slant up in order to keep yourself on track. So skip 2, 3 double crochets into the next stitch, all the way down the row until you have 4 stitches left, and then I will meet you back here to show you exactly how to finish out the row and get started on the next row. Okay, here I am at the end of the row with 4 stitches left. I'm going to skip 2 stitches and then I'm going to place 2 double crochets in the next stitch. And then I'm going to place 1 double crochet into the stitch after that. So your row should be ending with 2 double crochets and then 1. Now I'm going to show you row 5, which, like I said, is essentially a repeat of row 4. Chain 2 and turn your work. 1 double crochet into the first stitch. Skip 1 stitch and 3 double crochets into the next. Now, now we are going to begin our repeat of skipping 2 stitches and placing 3 double crochets into the next. And that's what we'll do until we have 4 stitches left. I will meet you back at the end of the row and I'll show you how to close it out and get started on the first row of your repeat. Here I am at the end of the row. I've got 4 stitches left. I'm going to skip 2 and place 2 double crochets into the next, and then 1 double crochet into the last stitch. That is your 4-row repeat. So getting started on the first row of your next repeat, you're going to chain 2 and turn your work, and that's where we're going to begin row 2 again, where you're placing 3 double crochets into the first stitch, skipping 2 stitches, 3 double crochets into the next. So you are going to repeat rows 2 through 5 until the size that you are working on. So for example, the size that I worked here, this is the size of one of my panels. Now for the size that I worked mine until I had 24 rows of double crochets of granny stitches. So not including row 1 where you have the single crochet. Now that's not, of course, a multiple of 4. So all I did was continue my repeats, 4, 4, 4, and stopping at whatever row that ends on the last row. So if you have 17 rows, you're going to do 4 repeats and then 1 extra row of the first. I hope that makes sense to you. You're going to need the total amount of double crochet rows for what you've seen scrolling on the screen, and that's going to be approximately 1/4 size of your bust, the height of that. The width of it is going to be the length, or half the length, remember? So what you're going to do now is you are going to finish that out, and then you're going to make a second panel exactly like it, and we're going to place our 2 panels together. Now when you finish out your first panel, you're going to want to leave a tail, a long enough tail to seam up the side of your panel, so that way we can leave and create an armhole. Okay, so you're going to leave probably approximately a 20-inch tail or so we can have enough to seam up the entire side. So go ahead and make your 2 panels, and then I will meet you back so we can seam the sides up, we can seam the middle up, and then we could also get started on the bottom band. Okay, so once you have your 2 rectangles completed, of course yours are going to look a lot larger than mine. I'm just making mine small size to show you exactly what to do. You will want to lay them out such as this, and make sure that the second row, row 2, the front is facing you on one side and the back is facing you on the other. Now what that's going to do is actually allow our granny stitches to be slanting in the same direction and for our seams to stay straighter. So we'll go ahead and fold over your rectangle. This in here will be your neckline, and this will be the opening for your arm. So you're going to take a tapestry needle and thread that up. And what we're going to do here, along the side, the last side that you finished, is we are just going to seam up. We're going to whip stitch actually through the top of the stitches. And you're just going to keep whip stitching those to close. This is going to be the outside of your body, or like your side hips. And we're going to be leaving an armhole here. Now I will leave, scrolling up on the screen, the approximate amount of stitches to leave open when you are working on your arm. and the approximate amount of stitches will be left open in order for you to be able to fit your arm through. Now this should fit, your arm should be more fitted so that it doesn't look like loose and dangly or saggy. So you'll just seam up the sides there. Okay, and then you will go ahead and work on the same thing on the other side, making sure to leave the same amount of stitches that you left for your armhole on the first side. Okay, so now that we have the sides seamed up and our armholes left open, we are going to take in, we're going to leave a neckline. Okay, so this is where our neckline will be, and depending on if you're working a size small to a size 5X, you're going to leave anywhere from 8.5 to about 10.5 inches open on your neckline. And I will go ahead and leave those also scrolling on the screen for you. Now, when we seam our panels together, we are just going to go through one chain on one side, one chain on the other side, and pull it through. And that's all you're going to do, leaving open approximately, you know, your 8.5 to 10.5 inch neckline. Now you can customize your neckline, leaving the neckline a deeper V or even a smaller V or a higher V, I guess you would say. And then we'll also do the same with the band. I have a thin band on this one with a 6-stitch band. You can choose to make it longer if you like, if you want a longer one. So let me go ahead and seam up these necklines, and then I will meet you back and show you how we're going to get started on the band. Okay, so here is what the body of your sweater should look like, or your summer top. Now, of course, mine is like a little bitty doll size. Yours is going to be much bigger. Now I'm going to show you how we're going to put the bottom band on, and what that's going to do is going to help to pull it in a little bit so that our top has some hang to it. It doesn't just hang straight down. It's going to pull in and then hang with a little bit of a poof at the bottom, I guess you would say. Okay, so what we're going to do is take our yarn. I have lots of little ends here that I'll need to weave in later, so we'll just ignore those. But we are going to take our yarn and join it at either side of your work. Which side? Or this side. We'll join it right at the seam. Okay, and so from here we're going to chain 7. Now remember, if you want a thicker band, then you can chain more. That's not a problem. Okay, now we're going to single crochet up the band, or up the chain back up to the body, second loop from your hook, and each chain after that. Okay, so now when we get up to the body, here's where I'm going to need to do some explaining for you. Each of these stitches on the body are double crochets, but they're going in the long direction. So what we're going to consider our stitches when we're working along here is the top of the double crochet, this post of the double crochet. Top of the double crochet, post of the double crochet. So on and so forth. Top of the double crochet, post of the double crochet. So when we get back up to the body, we're going to go into our first stitch, which is the top of the double crochet right here, and we're going to make a single crochet. Now, because we're trying to get our band to pull in together, only we're not changing our hook size, we are going to single crochet 2 together. So around the post of the double crochet, and then the top of the double crochet. Those are the stitches we're going to use to single crochet 2 together. And now we'll turn our work. We'll skip the 2 stitches that we just created, and then working back down the band, we will single crochet into the back loop only, continuing on to the band that we're working on. So you'll do your single crochets going all the way down, and then we will single crochet back up. So here is my last single crochet. Now I'm going to chain 1, does not count as a stitch, turn my work, single crochet into the back loop only, going back up to the body of the work. Make sure that you're counting your stitches, because the last stitch right before the body does get hidden a little bit right in there. Make sure you don't miss that one. Okay, so the top of this stitch is now already worked. We want to move on to the next stitch that's not worked. This one was worked with the single crochet 2 together. So now I'm going to single crochet over my double crochet post, and then single crochet 2 together. So the top of the stitch and the post of the stitch. And then I'll continue to work my band all the way around. I will work my band all the way around, and then I will just slip stitch together to join. Once you finish your band and slip stitch that together, the last step you're going to do is just to put a single crochet edging all the way around where your armhole is. And that's just going to help to keep it from stretching out and losing its shape, giving it just a little bit more stability, all right? All right, everybody, thank you so much for watching Jolie Knots Crochet. I'm Crystal, and you can still join me on Facebook or Instagram under Jolie Knots Crochet, or you can join the Jolie Knots Crochet community group on Facebook and show us what you've created.